Hello, and welcome back to the Carbon Capture Magazine podcast. I'm your host, Danielle Piekarski, and today we are welcoming Lianne Armpriester, General Manager of Carbon Capture, Utilization, and Storage at Chevron. Thank you for joining us today, Lianne.
Thanks so much for having me on, Danielle.
Of course. So why don't we kick things off today by having you give a brief introduction of yourself?
Absolutely. So as you mentioned, I'm General Manager for Carbon Capture, Utilization, and Storage Solutions with Chevron New Energies. I joined Chevron about 15 years ago. My background, I'm a chemical engineer by degree, but hired on as a petroleum engineer and spent the last 15 years in kind of a variety of technical and leadership roles, mostly in asset development, strategy, acquisitions, and divestitures on the traditional energy side of our business. And a few months ago, I had the fortune of getting to join Chevron New Energies in our lower carbon side of the business now.
Awesome. Okay. So why don't you tell us about Chevron's carbon capture and low carbon emissions efforts and strategies?
Absolutely. So at Chevron, we believe the future of energy is lower carbon, and we're looking to provide the energy that enables human progress around the world. So, we hear a lot of people talk about the energy transition. I think about it as energy expansion. And that's really something that here at Chevron, we've been a part of for the last 142 years. And we continue to plan to support the next phase, which is looking towards this lower carbon future. We believe all forms of energy are going to be necessary, right? So Chevron's focused on leveraging our capabilities, our assets, and our global customer relationships to deliver energy solutions to the growing world. We also have to recognize that it's not just the oil and gas industry that is looking for these lower carbon solutions. It's virtually every industry right now that's out there, and they're looking for the best way to do this and to lower their carbon footprint. And for some of them, it's going to be more challenging than for others. In particular, for some of the harder to decarbonize industries like steel or concrete, heavy duty transportation. And so our approach for achieving this vision for affordable, reliable, ever cleaner energy is really twofold. So at Chevron, we're looking to lower the carbon intensity of our own assets and operations, while also creating new businesses for lower carbon solutions that can help others decarbonize across different sectors as well. And we're demonstrating our lower carbon commitment in a couple ways. So first of all, it's financially. So it's out there publicly that we're committed to spending about $10 billion through 2028 on these lower carbon solutions. And then about a year ago, the second thing we did was to stand up this new segment that I mentioned I'm a part of, which is the Chevron New Energies. And it's a segment that's reporting directly into our CEO, Mike Wirth. And since standing up, we have been moving quickly to advance new projects. I mean, at Chevron, our strength's always been about solving big and complex energy challenges. And within New Energies, we're just looking at a new set of energy challenges to get us towards that lower carbon future. And that's really what's motivating our workforce. We're looking to create a culture here that's about entrepreneurial thinking and moving quickly so that we can deliver measurable impact in this lower carbon space.
Right. And it looks like Chevron has a great start to those efforts. I looked at the portfolio, and the projects you're doing are pretty big. Could you tell me about some of the projects in the U.S. that Chevron is currently working on?
Absolutely. So there's a couple in the United States that we have announced publicly so far. And as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, it's a two-pronged strategy for us. So I'll talk about one that really is focused on the decarbonization of our own assets. And then the second one that I'll mention will be an example of what we're talking about when we're talking about standing up a lower carbon business that helps third parties decarbonize their base. So with that first prong with our own assets, we've announced a project in San Joaquin Valley that's out in California, Bakersfield, California, where we've been operating those fields for probably close to 100 years now. And that specific type of oil and gas operation is very energy intensive. And so we saw a great opportunity to really advance our carbon management strategy there. So what we'll be doing is capturing CO2 from gas turbines and then injecting that in a saline aquifer directly there in the Kern River field itself. The second prong of our strategy, that growing of the third-party business, an example of that is our recently announced entry into the Bayou Bend offshore carbon capture sequestration project. And that's located in Southeast Texas, in the shallow waters in the state of Texas, waters there in the Gulf of Mexico. And it's a partnership between ourselves and then Talos Energy, who's the operator, and CarbonVert will be our other partner in that project. What's special about this, I mean, it's really kind of a first of its kind project for the United States, is it's the first and only offshore lease dedicated to sequestration in the United States at this point. And in general, what we think is special about this and what we're looking for when we're thinking about establishing CCS hubs is we're really looking for an intersection of three things, and that's geology, emissions, and policy. And we see Bayou Bend as fitting the bill for those three things. We believe it's got world-class geologic storage. It's definitely near a significant industrial base where we know there's a lot of companies that are quite motivated and they're looking for ways to lower their carbon intensity so they can continue to produce the products that are supporting our everyday lives. In addition to those couple of projects, we're also members of the Houston CCS Alliance, which is made up of about 10 companies with facilities in the Houston area. And we're looking for opportunities to advance carbon capture projects at a broader scale in support of our facilities in the area. And so those are just a couple of the ones that are public and out there today. But what I would say is we see in general within the United States, given the storage potential that we have here, the emissions profile, and the motivated customer base, that this is going to be an area of near-term growth for CCS.
Yes, for sure. And especially with the Inflation Reduction Act.
That's right.
Being in the industry's favor. Are there any projects outside of the U.S. that you would like to speak about?
Sure. So you may be aware we operate Gorgon, which is one of the largest CCS projects in the world. It's located in Australia. We started operations there in mid-2019, and to date, we've captured about 6 million tons. And over the asset's life, we're anticipating close to 100 million tons of sequestration for that asset. Chevron's also invested in Quest CCS project, which is located in Canada, and that's reducing emissions by about 1 million tons per year. And then in addition to that, we're looking at a number of opportunities. I would say particular focus for us internationally is within the Asia Pacific region, for example, Singapore, and as well as additional storage potential opportunities off the coast of Australia. But it's early days and we're moving fast. There's a lot of opportunities out there, and it all comes back, whether we're talking about the United States or globally, it's finding those motivated customers where the emissions exist and you have good geology to marry those together to make these quality CCS projects.
Great. Yeah, that's a great little system that you guys have put together. I recall you mentioning the 10 billion, was it?
That's right.
And the Quest investment, are there any other companies that Chevron has invested in?
Yeah, so another area that we're really focused and trying to drive down the cost within the carbon capture space is within the capture part of that value chain specifically. So CCS projects, we all know, are very capitally intensive. And so for us to be able to advance the market at the pace and scale that's required to meet the world's collective goals is really going to require innovation. And that innovation from a Chevron perspective, a big area of opportunity for that is in the capture tech space. So we have invested in a number of technology companies that we think have the potential to really move the needle on the cost of the capture part of the value chain specifically. And when we invest in these technologies, it's not just a financial investment. So really our strategy is to help with the development and eventual commercialization of these technologies. And so that these can be eventually scaled, not just to Chevron assets, but across other industries and sectors, and really accelerate the pace of deployment of CCS projects globally. So a couple of examples, Carbon Clean and Sponte are two companies that we're invested in and involved with helping develop their various capture technologies. I'll take Sponte as an example. So we have a venture capital arm within Chevron called Chevron Technology Ventures. And they made their initial investment in Sponte back in 2014. So we've had a relationship with them for quite some time. In 2020, Chevron was awarded a project from the U.S. Department of Energy. And so to look to further a pilot in carbon capture specifically. And so we're collaborating with DOE, Sponte, National Energy Technology Laboratory, and we're actually piloting back. I was talking earlier about our assets out in California. We're piloting a carbon capture project there with Sponte Technology as well, and we're expecting that to start up by the end of the year.
Awesome. Well, you kind of touched on what my next question was, but I'll see if you have anything that you'd like to add to that. It was, how do these investments and partnerships that Chevron is making create a greener business for Chevron, as well as opportunities within the carbon capture, utilization, and storage industry?
Yeah, so I mean, I think what I'll say is Chevron, our belief, and I think pretty much every third-party report agrees that carbon capture is a critical enabler if we're going to achieve the global net zero ambitions as outlined in the Paris Agreement. And CCS is something, I think it's talked about obviously a lot more than it used to be, but it's been around for decades. And companies like Chevron have a long history of operational experience in this space. And like I mentioned earlier, we're already deploying technologies and projects in various locations around the globe. So, it's really up to us to be clear and transparent in our discussions about why CCS? What are we trying to do with CCS? Why is it an important part of the energy transition? And when I say us, I kind of mean the broader, like we and the broader us in that sense, right? So it's not just us as industry, but government, society, and we're all going to need to partner together in order to achieve our ambitions and support the energy ecosystem that works for all of us.
Absolutely. Well, that was all that I had in terms of questions. Do you have anything else that you would like to add?
No, I just want to really thank you for letting me come on today and talk a little bit about Chevron and CCS and the important role it's going to play in this energy expansion space. I think one of my learnings since coming into the role, whether I'm talking to people in the communities where we're starting to develop these projects, or if it's my own, family members or friends just on the weekends, my learning is there's an incredible opportunity to build fluency and awareness of the benefits of CCS, what we're trying to do here, et cetera. And so opportunities like this to really at least start that dialogue are always appreciated. So thanks for having me on, Danielle.
Yes, of course. Thank you for joining us. Again, today I am joined by Lianne, Armpriester of Chevron New Energies. And as always, thank you to our listeners. We hope that you enjoyed this episode and look forward to seeing many of you at the National Carbon Capture Conference and Expo in Des Moines, Iowa from November 8th through 9th. Until next time.